Hello and welcome to Track One, an accredited leader in background screening. You are invited to listen in on a conversation with the owner and chief operating officer of Track One, Mrs. Nancy Lynn Roberts, Esquire, as she explains the laws surrounding background screening. Now, Mrs. Roberts.
Thank you for joining us today. We're here today talking about the most common screening types that are used by companies that are conducting screening today. And specifically, when we talk about screening types, we're talking about what exactly are they doing in their screening program. So I'm going to talk about the four most commonly used types of screening. The first would be identity verification. Now, I think it's important to understand that when we use identity verification tools, such as Social Security record tools, what we are able to verify is that the Social Security number that is being provided by the individual is a valid Social Security number, and that number is tied to the particular name and to the particular address history or employment history that is provided. So when a company types in a name and a date of birth and a Social Security number, we as a background screening company can then verify that number matches with the records with the Social Security Administration. So this is a very typical, almost every screening package that exists will include some form of identity verification tool. Second of all, the second most common screening type would be some form of criminal record search. Now, I think it's really important to understand that no two criminal record searches are alike. Even if you ask yourself whether you're doing a national criminal search or a multi-jurisdictional criminal search, some national searches include things like national sex offender public registries. Some do not. Some national searches or multi-jurisdictional searches include terrorist watch lists. Some do not. So you really need to understand what is included and what is not included in your national searches. Most of those searches are from an automated database, and therefore, if you live in a jurisdiction which does not automate its records or does not make it available in bulk, then you may not be able to get anything from your jurisdiction. So looking at other types of criminal searches will be important, like a county criminal search. The other thing to understand is whether federal criminal history is in the information that you are obtaining. Typically, that would be separate, and you would need to add it as a different type of search. And fingerprinting is also another element of criminal record searching. So when we talk about criminal record searches being a common screening type, it's important to understand that there are lots of different kinds of criminal record searches, and you need to know whether you're using the best kind given your jurisdiction, given the information you need to get. The third kind of screening type that is most common would be the personal references of some sort. So these are references where we are actually making a phone call to an associate or a supervisor, a former pastor or former volunteer coordinator, a former property manager or resident, or maybe a neighbor or a community member. And we are actually going through a list of questions that a client for our organization has either custom created or we have created a standard list to ask for them. So that personal reference becomes really important because you actually talk to a live person and you can dive into what that person is like. Now, again, this isn't just to rule out a person, but it's also to make sure that you're finding the right fit, that this person is a good fit for the position that you are considering them. So the next common type of screening, and actually the last that we'll talk about today, would be verification of credentials. This is used for everything from education record to employment to military to license or certification records. And these credentials, verifications of credentials, really gives you a feel for whether the information that is being provided to you is accurate and complete, to make sure that there haven't been any sort of loss of credentials, or violation of a license, things like this. So this is a great tool that's used very commonly in our employment screening today, and should be considered as well in any sort of a nonprofit organization that is using credentialed staff of any sort. So I would be remiss if I indicated that there aren't other common screening types: driving records, credit records. There are many others, drug testing. But what we see today, those 4 that we've discussed, are the most common type.
Thank you, Nancy. If you have any questions about the information that Nancy's presented today on background screening, please call us at 1-800-600-8999. If you have enjoyed today's information and would like to receive or review this information again, along with a full series on background screening, go to track-1.com/videos and sign up for greater insights on background screening with Mrs. Nancy Roberts.